Hey, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us for a very special episode of Customizing Culture, the Heat Press Nation podcast. I'm your host. My name is Jared Barbosa. I'm super excited to be here today because I'm joined by an old pal, one of my earliest influences, and then one of my earliest friends outside of this company in this industry. It's a pleasure to know him. It's an even bigger pleasure to look at him. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Piazza.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Jared and the Heat Press Nation family. I miss you guys. I was kind of taken back by a little bit by getting this invitation. I felt so secluded and ostracized from the industry. But anyways, my name is Joe Piazza. If for those that don't know me, I used to work for Caesar, the heat transfer vinyl manufacturer. I have 16 years in the garment decoration industry, myriad of background between digital art to printing to operations to social media management to obviously where I was in front of the camera doing video YouTube stuff back in like 2014 is kind of when I first started doing YouTube videos for Caesar. And then, yeah, I've been just kind of out of the game for a little bit since the end of 2022. So it's awesome to be able to catch up with everyone.
Dude, I'm so glad you're here. Honestly, thank you so much for taking the time. Question, did you ever watch the movie Heavyweights?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
dude, right now, I feel like you remember how when Josh, like how he got kicked out of camp, but then he came back and everybody's like, whoa, what was it like out there? Like, that's what it's like right now. Like,
to hide the food in the campground. Yeah. I feel like Tony Perkins right now.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, like, I think it's really cool because, like, and this whole podcast, like, I just want kind of your perspective because I feel like me being in it, like in the trenches still, and you know probably better than most people how that is. Like you can kind of like insulate yourself in this industry fairly easily, and like I'm stoked to talk to you today about just like everything, like how it was, how it is, and I'm really curious to hear about your film career. That's gonna be anyways, but first, if I may, I got a bunch of questions for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you said 16 years in the industry. How was that split up? Was it all with Caesar? I believe you were somewhere else before.
Yeah. So I started at Stalls at the end of 2006, and I was there for I don't know, roughly like 7.5 years. And
really?
Yeah.
That's funny. I've known you all this time. I didn't know you were at Stalls that long.
I thought I told you. Yeah. I mean, I kind of brushed past it because obviously Stalls and Caesar are competitors. So I try not to like make it feel like we're working against each other. I don't know. But it's part of my resume. It's part of my history and lineage, and I learned a lot there. I kind of briefly, just to let you know, like I started as the mail guy. So literally started at the bottom. I was
at the Detroit location.
Detroit,
okay.
St. Clair Shores.
I actually just visited the Pennsylvania spot, which is, I guess, manufacturing. So Detroit is like the HQ?
I don't know. And HQ was always St. Clair Shores, but I feel like they move a lot because they have different branches throughout the country.
Okay.
But yeah, St. Clair Shores is where it began, and it is a long-running company. They've been around for like almost 100 years, something crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started there, mail guy, just kind of worked my way into doing production support, unloading trucks, doing kind of the warehouse stuff, and then I moved over to kind of design a little bit. It was called nesting, where they have a water jet department, which is really cool. They cut vinyl with high pressure water, which was cool. And I was part of nesting for that. Then I went into digital art, and then I got into DTG when that kind of first came on the scene, which was super fun to me.
Wow.
I still think it's a great piece of equipment. Like the idea of it, the cost not so much, but the idea of it, well, at the time, you got to think too, it was brand
Well,
new
yeah. See, DTG back then, like
back
those
then.
machines must have been like six-figure machines, I
Well,
imagine.
well, not as much. It felt like that though,
Okay.
but it was like
Okay.
if you wanted to get a whole DTG set up with pre-treatment and inks and everything that you need to basically get it started, you needed like $30,000 in capital.
Yeah.
Um, and the concept was great though, like to do a full color design on dark or light. I think at the time you were kind of limited to cotton only. Um, I just thought that was really cool. And then, yeah, things started feeling like I was turning my wheels a little bit and started looking outside, but I only kind of knew this industry. Fortunately enough, Caesar is located a few cities away, and they were kind of up and coming. And I was like, for the North America branch, because Caesar's an Italian manufacturer, and the North America branch was relatively new. I was like the 10th or 11th employee at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was brought on to do graphic design, which was what I was previously doing, but also social media and then also video because, you know, I put on my resume, I have an acting background at the time, all amateur stuff, local made films and stuff. But yeah, I knew social media was becoming such a conduit for businesses. And I knew that that was like a free platform at the time. No one was really using it to the full potential. And at that time, it was really only like YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I was brought on to do videos there. And it was just, when I came over, it was just one other person in marketing, and that's my man's Keith. Shout out to Keith, who's still at Caesar. And him and I were basically the marketing team. And he was a huge, huge part of the earlier videos. I know I always try to make sure credit goes where credit is due, and he was a big part of the, like, obviously 50% of the other stuff that was in those videos because it was just him and I as a team. And that was kind of where the trajectory kind of springboarded Caesar into another realm.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting that you kind of had that. Some people would call it like maybe a premonition. You had that insight, like that instinct, maybe that like, oh, social media is where it's going to be at. Because truth be told, at that time, there was not a lot of people in our industry who had seen that yet.
And I just want to I say this part every time too. And shout out to Johan. Johan's the whole director of Caesar, and I love him to death. It was funny in the interview process with him that when he was hiring for the position of social media, he kind of had like a yeah, like we need it, but like business is done with a handshake. And in my
Yeah,
head, I'm like, oh, this is like a little bit of a gap in our age where I was like, I see the potential for the future. He was like, obviously we need it and there is potential for the future, but he didn't know to the magnitude until we were like actually working in it. And then he
yeah,
kind of came back and was like, oh yeah, this is a game changer.
yeah. It's and this is not to throw shade at anybody, but I guess just more of like for anybody listening, like keep your ear to the ground on what's coming around because I feel like in our industry, the companies that put off YouTube too long have such a hard time catching up with everybody else who got
Hmm.
in on it. And even us, like our early videos, this is not to put because Patrick's he's watching us right now, my boss. But you know, the earlier videos, you know, we did, you know, you do what you can with what you have, right?
Yeah.
Nobody was really throwing huge money at their video department back then. So, you know, you see a lot of the channels go back to their earlier videos. Everybody's setup is pretty simple. But when you look at the channels who waited a
Hmm.
few years, because there's some people who waited years later,
Hmm.
even after your videos were blowing up with Caesar, some people still put it off for a few years. And it's like, yeah, it's hard to catch up. It's hard to catch up on
Especially
technology.
now, man. Like
Yeah.
I that's why, because there's so many different mediums. Like we're talking on a podcast. Like when I started, podcasts were obviously going on, but they were
Mhm.
not what they are today. And
Right. Yeah.
we didn't have TikTok for the younger audience. That was like, they just need 30 seconds to get something that is tantalizing for them to want to like further research it. For us, and especially it was a little arduous for us as a manufacturer because obviously, as you know, because Heat Press Nation sells Caesar, we didn't sell direct. So the other
Yeah.
problem that we would have is we would make people mad because they would see the videos we'd make or the content and then want to buy from us immediately. And it was like we knew we were kind of missing opportunity because we didn't sell direct. That was a part of our business model. It still is to this day. And we would pass the business on to a distributor and try to find one closest to them. And I mean, that it irked people, but compared to now, where I just feel like everything is now, now, now. If it's not instant gratification, you're kind of lost in the
Yeah.
dust. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's so much more intense compared to how it used to be.
Yeah. It's wild. There's people on TikTok making millions off of a T-shirt, one T-shirt, because they have it linked. Because TikTok has a shop now where if you're watching a video and you like what's in it, you could click and buy in the app. That instant gratification, like there's people out there with $1 million T-shirts, and to me that blows my mind.
Blows my mind. I
Yeah.
mean, good for them. And
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
been
yeah.
always
Yeah.
like that's a huge part of how I've always educated end users, or if I was educating distributors on how to sell the product and their approach, because I think a lot of people always kind of they just wanted to follow trends, right? So it was
Yeah.
just like they'd get on the tail end of a trend and think like, oh, this I'm gonna capitalize the way that this $1 million customers make it, or making $1 million off of one shirt design or something, and they'll be like, I'll just do that and I'll get in the same. But by that
Mhm.
time, the trend would change, and then it'd be something else, and so they'd always try to play catch up instead of being like, let me just figure this out on my own and find my own path and my own lane and really market it properly and work the aesthetic out and work the whole marketing campaign behind it and then come to the audience with it and be prepared. I just think there were a lot of moments where I saw people that were like, I just want this like Bitcoin, like jump on the train real and
Yeah.
make a real quick buck. And it's like, it's not how it always works. Some people catch it, but it doesn't always work out that way. But
Yeah.
now there's a lot of
For sure.
opportunity for it. Now there's a ton of opportunity.
Yeah, and especially with like different print methods, like, and I guess to Caesar's credit, if you're running a vinyl cutter or something that you could do on demand, like in that moment, you at least have a better chance because
For
you're
sure.
faster.
For sure.
Yeah. So
And you're not turning business down if it's like only 1 to 10, if a customer only wants a few, opposed
yeah,
to customers that are like, oh, I want 100 of this design. Can you do it in various sizes? And if you don't have the capacity, that's when you
yeah,
want to, if you're set up with, well, the new trend, right, is DTF. I'm sure
yeah,
we'll go over that a little bit, right?
yeah,
That's where you can step in and shine and do a wide amount of them. But yeah, vinyl, it's always going to be there. There's always going to be a market for it. Now it's just kind of like remolding your approach. Like where is it going to go next? Because it's not really going anywhere.
yeah. Man, if I could take us back just a little bit. So we're kind of talking about like how you got to like keep your eyes forward, ears to the ground, like kind of try your best to forecast what's coming. So you kind of came into Caesar with that mentality, like video is it. Was there a point where you had a video that hit and that kind of solidified like your hunch, like, oh yeah. Was there a point like that where you had one video kind of take off, or was it more of like a slow burn?
It, I guess it's hard to say. Like in retrospect, it would seem like a slow burn, but in the grand scheme of things at that time, we kind of hit the ground running. And honestly, video, I was intimidated, like, because I didn't have, there wasn't anyone else really doing video.
Yeah.
And I didn't really necessarily know what the expectations, I'm going full transparency here. Like, I wasn't necessarily told what I needed to do with video. It was kind of like, we just need YouTube videos. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like a part-time actor outside of this, like, and I'm learning these products as we go. And so it was just like, how do I approach it? And fortunately, and to Caesar's credit, is they gave me the freedom. So I had the freedom, and then I obviously shout out again to Keith, had his skill sets of behind the camera and post production to go, let's make this our own, because there isn't anything like, there were a few companies that were sort of doing it, but it wasn't what we wanted to do. We wanted it to be educational for the product. So to answer your question, honestly, our first video was just a really simple video of Easy Weed. And it was a quick application video. It was just literally like the word Easy Weed and a number on it. And I slapped it on some shirts that we had lying around. You know, it's funny to look back at those videos because they look like they were filmed in, 1972. And it's like, the lighting, and we didn't have a backdrop. It was just like a couple hangers. I was just like, all right, let's go for it. And then when that video came out, we had like, I know this sounds bad, but it was like, I think we had like 2,000 views in like a week. And at that time, there wasn't a gauge. Like, there was nothing to gauge on for numbers, but we're like 2,000. And the way Johan put it to me was like, I travel all over the world to different trade shows, and I don't even think I talked to 2,000 people in like a year. So it's like, you get that all in a week. You're like, okay, well, maybe we have something. And then fortunately enough, all of our distributors didn't have videos for our stuff. Obviously, they didn't have videos for much. So they would take our video and then they would share it the way we wanted it to be, so people could get a little bit of an educational idea of how the product worked. And so that kind of helped get the ball rolling. And then we knew with YouTube, just like to how today is, you got to be consistent. So it was we had to make sure that we were trying to do, I think at that time it felt like we were maybe doing one every other week. And, our numbers would constantly go up. It would be a slow growth, but for us it was a lot, But yeah, that was the very first video, I would say.
I think it's funny how you're saying that, like, you didn't, like, you kind of forged your own path and your own style. I think it's funny because, so I probably, what year was that for you? Let's get the facts here now that we're on the podcast.
I believe it was, even to the month, I believe it was August 2014. So
okay, that makes so much sense. So I started with Heat Press Nation April 2016, and by the end of the year 2016, I was in like one or two videos. But one thing I distinctly remember is when I first started, like, we were a small company. I joined in customer service. I might have been like the fourth or fifth customer service team member, right? On there. And so training, instead of like having somebody train me, training was just, hey, here's a YouTube playlist. Go watch all these. Okay, I'm done. I watched all of them. Watch them again. It is so for like a day and a half, I was just, and back then there was not a huge library of videos at all. So it was mostly watching you. And one thing that I remember being impressed, like, oh, this is cool. There's somebody who gives a darn about this stuff. Like when I would see your videos, and then I would see other videos, and I'm not, again, we're not really into throwing shade on this podcast, so I won't name names. There's a couple of videos I was like, oh, okay, well, let's go back. Let's see what the Caesar guys say, right? so it was really cool. And then when I started doing videos myself later that year, or possibly early 2017, I distinctly remember like asking the question, like, okay, how do you guys want me to? Because I'd acted in short films put on by my little brother, right? That whole 10 people have seen in this world. So, but I thought
Hey,
myself to be like, okay, I'm gonna be an actor, right? I'm gonna
that's
try.
it. That's all you need to do.
And
Just
so I
one
asked
little
my
spark.
so I asked him, I was like, so what's my style here? What's my motivation, right? And they're like, oh, just do what Joe from Caesar does. And I was like, cool. So like if you look, whatever you see in my early HPN days is me doing my best Joe from Caesar impersonation, which is actually not a good impersonation at all, but
Oh,
like
stop it.
that's how it started.
I mean,
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Jared, you always crushed it though, and I'm
Oh,
honest. Like obviously, in the years I got the chance to come out there and shoot videos with you guys, it was honestly one of the very few times I was excited to do that because I was asked to do that with other people, which was always fun. But it's like you guys knew, you know what I mean? Like I could tell right away by the quality of your videos. I even started saying it and in the office myself, but it was like I didn't have the HPN team on the back end all the time, you know what I mean? And it was like I really, really always look forward to working in videos with you guys because you always made them fun, unique,
dude.
uh, and energetic. And to just kind of go with what you were saying, and thank you so much for all the kind words you said so far there. But for me, to your point, like when my only approach in my head was I want to do these videos in a way that I would want to watch them. And I didn't really know. I was kind of briefed a little bit on what our demographic was at the time. And it was, I know it's not a bad thing to say, but crafter mom. And that
Mhm.
was kind of like, and I didn't know what that meant. I came from Stalls, which is like a kind of was big in sports and kind of global and all this stuff. And it was like, now I'm looking at this 12-inch cutter and a home iron. And I'm like, what, who am I talking to? Like, who am I educating?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, well, here's your demographic, sort of. And it's like, it's sort of this age group and it's predominantly women and they're just doing fun, crafty things and this and that. And I'm like, I still don't know what that means, but
Yeah.
I'm going to do this in my mind. I'm going to go, well, what if there's a Jared watching this? What if there's a Joe? What if there's another person out there like our age going, I want to start a little business and I can do this with the same equipment and I can become my own boss or become an entrepreneur and do this thing and take this first step. So that was kind of the way I looked at it is like, I'm also going to try to have fun with it, but I'm also going to show people the simplicity of the products that anyone starting from ground zero can jump into this world and start their own business or join in on the fun of just making one-offs for family and friends, you know?
Yeah. That's one thing that I know it sounds a little it sounds even a little corny, but it's so true is that like I love how heat pressing and especially cutting vinyl. 'Cause I'm wearing like a vinyl shirt right now. Like I wear this shirt all the time. It's not like
Awesome.
something that I just do because I work here. Like through and through, like I'm a vinyl boy. Got started on this on the Cameo Caesar all day. I have rolls of Caesar in my closet at home that I can't get rid of because I know like no, it's good stuff. I'm gonna
Oh
use it
yeah,
still. Yeah,
dude. I
even
got
colors, even
I
one.
mean, I have all this stuff is has been on my shelf for years. I still
Yeah,
use it. It's
thank you.
great.
He's like,
Yeah,
I'll get a job that requires one color, and I'm like, maybe I'll use this color again. So I have a bunch
yeah,
of random colors
yeah.
for old jobs.
I
Still
got
keep them on.
scrap boxes. I got all that stuff still that I'm like,
Yeah,
that's why I try to tell people like transparency. Like this is my basement. I still use the products to this day, and I always did. In like when I would do jobs for myself or friends that have businesses or some family event going on or whatever it is, and yeah, vinyl is definitely a very versatile product because I think there was a stigma for a long time with there was like a correlation of vinyl was crafter mom. It's kind of what it
right.
became until there was like a edgy dude like yourself that's like, well, look at this really intricate like wild shirt is made out of vinyl.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that started blowing people's minds. And I got one time I did, and because you guys always do really awesome designs, which I was always jealous for, because we had to always kind of be cautious of what we used if we had something that. And I loved your videos where you explain like how you would design something that would kind of pass by like the copyright laws and stuff
Oh
like
yeah,
that. And you guys have like
yeah.
your designs. But I did do one a while back when we were promoting. I don't even remember. It was using Easy Weed Stretch, but it was a super intricate design that someone actually designed themselves. So, but it was Walter White of Breaking Bad,
Oh,
and it
cool.
was 6 colors, and it was a super intricate design, and it was all cut with Easy Weed Stretch, which is still my personal favorite product.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and I posted a picture of the finished product of just the shirt, and the amount of trolling I got in the comments of going that you could never do that with vinyl. You could There's no possible way, and blah blah
Oh my
blah. And
gosh.
I had one guy that was like just went personal with me, like he was just trying to bash me on personal levels. Like it
Jeez.
was crazy. But I called him out because that got me a little irate,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I said, "You want to bet me like $50?" And I'm on the job, so I shouldn't have been doing it. But I was like, "Let's do this," and he was like, "Bet." And I made a video, and I had a buddy or a coworker follow me around with the phone and film me from cutting to weeding to application to the shirt itself. And I put that together, and it was an absolute mic drop moment. And the amount of minds that just exploded after seeing that, and it was like there was a huge change of tune of going, well, this isn't just a fun, crafty product that is, however they would think about it. And then it started changing, and the wheels started spinning, and anyways, onward. It was just kind of like the push for stretch and other products that people didn't know we had just started coming out of the woodwork. And you guys definitely help by kind of you jump on that same trend and go, well,
Yeah.
we carry it. We have this. So
Oh
here's
yeah.
where you're going to come and get it.
There were so many times where I was like, "Look at this video Joe did. Let's do that." And so I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." And even now, like, and of course, big shout out to Patrick. We had him on the podcast a few
Absolutely.
months, maybe last year. Time flies when you're having fun.
It
But
does.
Patrick Ali, there's so many times like he'll put out a video. I'm like, doggone it, I should have thought of that. We're doing that. We're inspired by which
Yeah.
actually I really love that about our especially Heat Press Nation's relationship with Caesar. Like I feel like we could totally do that. It's good because you know you guys make the stuff, we sell the stuff, and so it's a great. I like being able to do that.
I
Being
know.
able to take inspiration and yeah.
100%. And that was always my intentions, what I would have liked to do. But not everybody has a Jared and crew to their disposal to be like, yeah, I'm comfortable experimenting with something with video content and making this thing fun and entertaining. And so that was always kind of a challenge on my end. But yeah, to your point, shout out to Pat for sure. He, to his credit, like when he came on board with Caesar, unfortunately he joined right before the pandemic. But he to me, I didn't know many people that were doing it, but he started a podcast for Caesar. I think in 2021, I would say, maybe even 2020. I don't totally remember, but he did it was called the Decorate podcast, and he
Mhm.
had various people on that, and I didn't even really know what podcasts were at that time, and it wasn't until a year or two later where it felt like that became the platform. But I was like, Pat, you were kind of already ahead of that. Like it just it became a difficult task in trying to get people to subscribe and listen, and all that stuff was tough to do with a small crew. And I'm like, yeah, welcome to my world. That's how
Yeah.
early days were. But he's crushing it. I'm really, really proud of him. After I had left, I definitely wanted to make sure he was stepping into the position. to be the obviously the on-screen presence. And he's doing a wonderful job. And shameless plug to their Caesar's vinyl cutter, right?
Yeah.
I got the Romeo chilling back here, and he was a big part of the creation of the software, the Leonardo Design Studio. And I know that they're forever upgrading that and doing stuff with that. So that's been fun to watch from the sidelines.
Yeah. And okay, so speaking of sidelines, like I feel like you could have been at Caesar forever. And I feel like you could have been an industry leader in our field, in our video space, creation space, possibly forever. So I have to ask you, like, what kind of led to your decision to make that big career move? Because that is a pretty big career move, and I think it takes a lot of let's see, what words can I use on this podcast? It takes a lot of guts. It
Back
takes
to you,
pretty
Mo.
big brass guts,
Global guts.
global guts, to make a move like that. So can you kind of talk us through like, and I'm asking not. I hope my boss doesn't think I'm okay, okay. Not asking for me, all right. But there's a lot of people who maybe they're working corporate job and they want to jump into heat pressing or they want to jump into Vine or there's a lot of people I feel like there's a
Sorry,
lot of
sorry.
people I feel like who are at a crossroads maybe one way or the other. And if you don't mind sharing kind of what kind of went into your mindset when you made it to that crossroads.
Oh man, that's such a, like a loaded. It's tough. It's really there's so many different answers I feel like I could give you, and I felt like obviously when the world changed in 2020, it affected everybody, right? I'm not here trying to woe is me by any means, but I knew that things were going to be forever changed in how we would be doing business and how like things would be getting done. And my favorite parts of what I got to do for that company was to connect with people. I'm just that type of person. I love traveling. I loved going to different spaces and actually meeting people one on one and getting the actual like reaction when you would show them the product and you would help them walk through it, all that. Even if that was the one person in an entire show, to me that was so important. The videos were great because feedback would always be good, but it would be like I feel like there's missing things, and I'm the guy that's like I don't want you to leave until you have all your questions answered rather. And so when that all happened and travel started shutting down and trade shows weren't coming around, and I felt like everyone was kind of on edge. I just felt like I'm not utilizing my full potential being trapped back into an office. You know what I mean? And I felt like sitting at a desk and, it wasn't me. And then we had to make a whole change internally for, over time because we were growing. So we had to bring people on, thankfully. But it was like, the four walls started really closing in on me quick. And I waited it out. Like I gave it time and I was trying to go with the wave and see where the industry was going. And then it was kind of like the year of 2022 was when we were putting this bad boy and its little sister, the Juliet, together. And it was a huge push. And honestly, 2022 was our biggest year of all the products we ever launched. I think to this date, I've been out of it for the last year and a half, but I think to this date, because we had the DTV, the Easy Color DTV, which was the regular home printer vinyl that you could use. Then we had this, we had sublimation markers, we had all this new stuff. And I guess there was just that point, man. At the time, I'm 36 right now. I've been in a full-time position since I was 18, and I just felt like my other passion, which I know is probably going to sound cheesy to a lot of people, but again, I'm a musician of 20 years and I'm an actor of 15 plus years. And I just felt like those things were always on the back of my neck as like, man, this is what you truly love to do as well. Don't forget about us. Like, and I just said, well, if I don't take the chance in my life, like everyone says, the cliches, like if you don't take that chance, you'll never know what's going to come of it.
Yeah.
And I just felt like Caesar was kind of, to me, was at the peak for what I was going to be able to do for that company. And I was like, I just got to go out at the tippy and and then just take a chance on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not a cheesy country song. You know what I mean? Like I just had to, dive in. Unfortunately, this is my luck, right, Jared? I ended the year 2022. I finished all the way to the end of the year. And then 2023, I was like, I'm going to give myself a full year to focus strictly on acting. And I started off strong. I updated all my resumes, my IMDb page. I got a real agent. I was starting strong. And then March came and there were rumblings of the writer's strike. And I'm like,
I forgot
oh
about that.
boy, oh boy. And I'm like holding my breath and I'm trying to communicate with my agent at the time, like, and I'm not union as of now, but it was like, are actors going to be going on strike too? She didn't really know. Things were kind of precarious. And then I think it was like the end of May, beginning of June, the actors went on strike too. And that was like, there goes all the audition opportunities. Nothing was coming in. And so it was just kind of like another sign of like, well, I, I still gave it a shot. I'm still giving it a shot to this
Yeah.
day. Like, and I had other opportunities that were sort of coming my way, but I said, I want a full year of only looking for acting gigs as much as I can and being diligent about that. And I did. I went all the way to the year, and now we're in 2024 and midway through that, which is crazy. But I'm still going strong. Jobs have sort of picked back up, getting auditions slightly. I had a film I just shot in March, at the end of March, here in Detroit, and that should be available on Tubi the end of the summer.
Oh, that's exciting. Can you share the title?
It's
Or
called A Beautiful Rage.
nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, you have worked on some features though. So
What's that?
like you have worked on some features. Now I'm not sure the timeline. When did you shoot holiday, was it a holiday I do? No.
Yeah.
Is that the
Yep.
title? Yeah. When
Yep.
did you shoot that one then?
That was actually 2022 on top of all that. So not only
Oh
was
wow.
everything,
Okay.
yeah, with Caesar was a big year, but that was the year I shot A Holiday I Do, which is a fun pseudo Hallmark movie that is probably the most wholesome thing I've done in my whole career, and
Yeah.
it came out really really well. But it was, we had a little bit of we had a few speed bumps during the filming of that because that was supposed to be all shot in January and February 2022, but COVID was still around, and crews that were part union had a lot of protocols. So
Got it.
we got shut down, and then it started like, we scattered dates because we had actresses coming in from out of town. We had crew coming in from out of town. So getting everyone's schedule together, we shot from basically January to, I think the last day of the shooting was like September of 2022.
Oh
And
wow.
so, yeah. And then that came out. We had a premiere in November of last year in 2023. And it was a big hit. Like, people actually really liked it. It
Yeah,
came
no,
out.
it was great. It was really fun. And like you said, it's kind of pseudo Hallmark, but that like okay, I'll tell you right now. in our office, we have a TV all Christmas season long. It's just playing all the Hallmark movies.
Oh, nice.
Like, so though it hits a special place here in the on the marketing team. There's a special place in all of our hearts for those.
Right on.
Like there's and then a holiday I do was great. Like there's like it just makes you feel good, dude.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes that's what people need to watch. They just want to feel good, man.
I'm with you,
So
man. I'm the older I get, the more I appreciate that, right? Like as a
yeah,
musician, I came from a very punk rock background, so it was very, everything just was dark all the time,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
think with the work, to tie that in, meeting, and also, Jared, like we would go to events together, like an all things silhouette, and we
oh,
were
those
like
were the funnest. Yeah,
1% of guys at this place. So it'd be like when you're surrounded by a bunch of women that are showing you like cute things all the time,
yeah,
you sort of become accustomed to that. You're like, yeah, that is kind of cute. I
yeah,
never really looked at a pineapple that way. Oh,
yeah.
that flamingo, you can do that many colors with it. It's like,
Dude,
yeah,
okay. So to add a little so for the viewers, to add a little context to that, all things silhouette. Big shout out to Terry Johnson and her crew. It was a crafting conference that would take place once or twice a year in Peachtree City, Georgia. Uh, I would say around like what 500 attendees, and
yeah,
like Joe was saying, 99% women. So oftentimes the only men at the conference would be the vendors. So
yeah.
Joe or the teachers. So Joe would
Or
be
the
there,
husbands that were
or
dragged
the
there.
oh yeah, the husbands, dude. We would have these husbands come by our booth since we were the only guys there, and it was so funny. I remember this one guy. He came by because he wanted to talk hunting, fishing,
Oh yeah.
and we're from LA, dude. We don't do those things out here. We hunt for taco spots and we eat
Yeah.
fish tacos. That's the hunting fishing we do. So he comes to the booth, try to talk hunting fishing, and then when he realized that he was getting nowhere, he just stood there and he's like, "Oh well,"
Yep. Well,
and he wouldn't, dude. Yeah.
I'll
So,
just keep
anyways,
it
that's
on.
what that means. But you're right in the sense that it definitely made me appreciate crafts more. One of my favorite crafters to this day. I'll give another name drop shout out. Lori Whitlock. She made the foldies,
Oh
like
yeah,
the
yeah,
I don't know if it counts as origami, but it's like custom cut on the silhouette.
yeah. Hmm.
She has this one box that still blows my mind. You open it up and then it unfolds. I don't even know how to say it.
Dude, I
Genius stuff. Yeah.
what a lot of these customers would do. I mean, the stuff I would get shown. This is another reason. Like, it's cool seeing pictures online, but oh man,
Yeah.
I'm a little more old school, I guess now. That's why it's funny, full circle with like the way Johan saw me with social media is like now this is how I'm looking at social media. I'm just kind of exhausted from it because it would be part of the allure and part of the excitement to see what customers would do with your products were to go to these events, and you would not only participate in some of the ones like the events that Terry would put on and friends, but it would be like just regular trade shows. You'd have a customer
Yeah.
walk around with like something custom on them with your product, and then they would go, you want to see how I did this, or you want me to explain how I did this, and you'd see the excitement, but then you'd see like their approach and go, oh yeah, there's not one way to bake a cake. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there, you see the creativity that gets drawn out to people. Like when you're like, I don't want to just follow the trends. I want to create my own thing. I mean, there was
Yeah.
one guy, I don't remember who he was, and I can't really shout him out like other than this experience, but he was actually coming to all the heat transfer vinyl booths at regular trade shows, and he would ask us to ask if he could go into the garbage and take this like literal scraps of any little piece of material that we had in there. It didn't matter what it was, if it had a carrier off of it, no matter what the size was. And I'm like, you know how it all works, or but and he would show me these custom like suits he would make with just scrap pieces of vinyl, and he was showing me the price point that he was selling these things at, and I was like, you are an absolute genius. Like, shout out to
Yeah.
you. You would take literal garbage. He was taking little scrap pieces, and I was always an advocate, and I know you've said to save your scraps,
Yep.
but this guy was literally
My wife
taking
hates me for
scraps,
it. But yes.
and he collected a bunch of it, and then he'd say I'd just go back and I'd cut wild arbitrary shapes, and then I'd get a color scheme or whatever it is, and I'd customize his suit, and he'd turn around and sell it online for probably 500%. I don't know, like something insane.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So
Dude, yeah, it's stuff like that that definitely yeah, definitely miss that. Our showroom closed down, and I guess shout out to our team for the showroom. Our showroom closed down for COVID, and we actually just barely reopened it yesterday, Monday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been a solid 4 years since we've had any like in-person interactions here at the office with customers, and I miss it, dude. I definitely miss it. That's one of those things that like it had been so long that I had forgotten that I even enjoyed it. And then when they announced that, oh yeah, we're reopening the showroom, I was like, oh yeah, I kind of like, oh yeah, very cool, very cool. I know it's going to be a lot of work for our team downstairs, so we love you guys. Shout out.
I know it is
like, yeah, like on Gladiator, we who are about to die, salute you. but it's fun, man. I definitely miss the in-person interaction. Hey, if you don't mind, man, I'm a fanboy, so I have to ask a few questions. But the biggest question on my mind is, you've done some work with Dennis Haskins, and this is kind of going back to the movie stuff because, dude, I love movies. I love anybody who makes movies, and I recognize how hard it is and how much work goes into making a movie. Mm-hmm. So props to you for that, honestly, and I love that you're doing it, man. That you're making movies, but I gotta ask, Dennis Haskins, how was it meeting Mr. Belding?
Oh man, that was a trip down memory lane. But you're absolutely right. Like working in film is not for the faint of heart, and for people that I've always had a passion for it. I've always been a big film buff, still am to this day. I geek out about it. I'm not a sports guy, so when people are always impressed by the amount of films and knowledge I know, they're like, "Why?" I'm like, "I don't watch sports." So,
yeah.
But yeah, so I've worked a long time locally with different production companies of various qualities. And fortunately, this was back in 2016. I got on this film called, at the time, it was called Taken Over. It's now, you can find it on Tubi, I think. It's called Enigma. And yeah, I was told there was going to be I was one of the leads in the film, but I was told there was going to be a name, like a Hollywood name was going to be attached to it. And they didn't actually know at the time who it was going to be. They were making a couple calls, talking to different agents, and then like a few days before the shoot date for that person, I was told Dennis Haskins is going to be this character. That's cool. Honestly, truly, I was a fan of Saved by the Bell, but I actually didn't know his name. So when they said Dennis Haskins, I was like,
that's true.
I was a little deflated because I kept hearing like other names because I didn't know who he was. That's what I mean.
Right.
Not
well, anybody our age only knows Mr. Belding.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're kind of at like the tail end of that era, kind of, right? Yeah. Like we were still super young, but once I went home and I looked up on IMDb Dennis Haskins and I saw it was Mr. Belding, I started freaking out. I was like, I have scenes with him. Like I've been on sets. Like when Detroit had the incentives back in 2009 and 2010, we had the Hollywood productions were coming here. I worked on a film called Real Steel and Hugh Jackman.
Oh,
yeah.
Very cool.
And it was cool because I got to meet Hugh Jackman. But it was like I wasn't working with Hugh Jackman. It was like I was an extra on set, so I was just a peon. But this, in the script, I had actual back and forth with him, and he was super friendly. Like he was really nice. He just kind of like jumped right in. He didn't shy off. He kind of hung out around everybody. He was only on set for like, I think 2 days. And, you know, it was funny hearing him tell stories about Saved by the Bell. Like, to this day, he's still milking the Mr. Belding. Like, he goes to different, like, Comic-Cons or shows or whatever around, and it's all different variations of Saved by the Bell. Like, he was going to, like, a wrestling one at the time that was called Saved by the Mat or something. And it was, like, the weirdest thing. But it's like he's just raking in the Belding bucks, you know? So, but it was really cool. It was awesome to experience hanging out with him. And then shout out to the same production company, because a couple years after that, I got to work. And by work, it was like a quick scene with him. But Tom Sizemore.
Oh, Sergeant Horvath. Yep.
You know, yeah.
That's
and Tom Sizemore was up for an Academy Award. And that was that. And I'm a big geek. You know, Natural Born Killers is one of my favorites. And getting to work with him briefly, and then unfortunately he passed away a couple years after that. But that was a really, really cool experience. But yeah, Belding, that was great. It was great. I'll never forget it. And you guys can see the work again. It's free on, is it Tubi or Prime? It's one of them. It's called Enigma. Enigma.
Nice. Okay, so I have to ask, who's your dream co-star, scene partner? If you could pick one scene, you have one scene, 3-minute scene, right? Not super long, but you get to work with any actor or actress you want. Who are you picking?
That's a good question. Can you pick a genre so I can narrow it down?
Dramatic horror. Jordan Peele movie. There we go. It's a Jordan Peele movie.
I feel like I'm just going to say Tom Hardy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I hear he's super cool too.
Yeah, but I feel like whatever that character he's playing, I'll be able to really work off of that. And then for some reason, I want him to like punch me. I don't know why, because like I immediately go to Bronson with him as an actor. I think I know he's a heartthrob and he's all these other things to the masses, but as pretentious as I'll sound, but the film Bronson, if you want to see one of his earlier films, super wild, but really, really well done and shows how good he is as an actor. I would kind of put that in a, not horror, but it was darker, like a dramatic film with a little bits of levity in there. But
it's funny that you say you want to get hit. I think I just heard this story about on TV or wherever, YouTube, whatever. Glenn Powell was saying that in Batman, he actually smashed his face into the desk.
Oh,
and
really?
He was like, yeah, and he was like, yeah, but I was stoked about it. It was like Tom Hardy smashing my face. And
what are you gonna do?
Yeah, he was a super nobody back then. Like Glenn Powell, he was literally, he had I think like 2 lines. And then he just smashed his face into the desk. And so I watched it, and I was like, he really did it. He really did smash his face in the desk. It's awesome.
I think about that. That's what I'm saying. like I sign me up. As much as I'm by no means I'm not a fighter, like, because to stay in that vein real quick, I don't want to go too far up, but like Fight Club is one of my favorite films. I'm just a huge David Fincher film buff, but when Fight Club came out in '99, like I saw that in the theaters and I was just so blown away by the idea of this. It turned out it's a book. Chuck Palahniuk, awesome book, wild, totally. I mean, it's similar to the movie, but a lot different tropes in there. But it was one of those things that immediately I was like, I'd play the Jared Leto role. You know what I mean? I'd get my face smashed in for a role in that film. I don't know why. Like, it's just it's such a well done, cool film, but I think it captures like such a raw thing to it, and that's why I say like Tom Hardy in most of his roles, like there's something about his charisma of like he's. I'm not going to say Daniel Day-Lewis of the modern day, but like he definitely is a method actor, and I
Oh yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, and you could tell because I have never doubted that he was the character. Like I've never thought like, oh, he's just Tom Hardy being a character. No, it's he's him. Yeah.
Exactly. And not
Yeah.
all of them are winners. Like Capone was sort of terrible,
Oh, I
but
didn't see that one. Maybe I shouldn't see it.
yeah, he did okay. It's just more like it's not great. And then,
Yeah.
did you ever see Peaky Blinders?
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, dude, his role in that though was so good, and it wasn't
Yeah.
even like a. He was just kind of an extra, and he's
Yeah.
a big actor. That's what I appreciate too. Is like he'll just take a good role when it comes, no matter how big it is.
I'm
Yeah,
nervous to watch his new motorcycle movie only because his accent sounds a little funny.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll see. We'll
I
see.
I'm
I'll
still
wait
gonna
till other people watch it.
I'm still gonna see it. But quick turn on the thriller side though, dude. I just saw Longlegs and
Oh, how is it? I have not.
Nicolas Cage. Brava! Like
Nicolas Cage.
it was it was one that like this year has actually weirdly been great for horror films, and I'm
Mhm.
that's always kind of been my genre. But like this Longlegs, I saw a trailer for it a while back, and they did it perfectly where like it doesn't give away much, but it's got that really creepy element to it, and then it had Nicolas Cage in it, so it's like, how can this be bad? And then I went and saw it with my brothers on Saturday, and I didn't know what to expect, but it was one of the few films. I live alone, and I'm normally not like afraid of anything. I was actually like, do I sleep with the lights on? Like, do I board up my windows? Like, it
Oh man.
was it's creepy. Like he does
Oh,
a
okay.
great job.
Maybe it's beyond my threshold then. I watch maybe 1 to 2 horror films a year. It's not my select genre, but I do appreciate the filmmaking of some of I'll say select horror films.
Yeah.
So this might be my one for the year. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So
Like
far that one has been good.
like I barely watched The Shining like 2 years ago.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. I know. I know.
Whoa. Did you know they had another Shining too?
I heard about that. Yeah. And then
When
they
we were,
did one like where the kid grows up or something.
that's another movie. It's or another book called Doctor Sleep. So that's the
Yeah, no, with
continue.
Ewan McGregor, right?
Yep. Which is
Yeah.
a kind of an underrated film. That one came out right before COVID happened, which ended up kind of overshadowing that film,
Mhm.
obviously. But no, they made a made-for-TV Shining in like
Ooh.
'97, and it was like a 3-day event. And I remember watching it with my mom and my brother, and it's a lot closer to the book. So if you haven't read the book,
Mm-mm.
the way Stanley Kubrick made it with Jack Nicholson, and shout out to Shelley Duvall, she just passed,
RP. Yeah.
R.I.P. And when Stanley Kubrick made The Shining back in 1979 or whatever, like Stephen King hated it. Like him and Stanley Kubrick bashed heads because he didn't follow the story. He made all these different changes. There were blah blah blah. And then they actually made the made for TV version, which follows the book a lot closer. For those that have read the book, it is different than the Stanley Kubrick movie, and it's really really creepy. But The Shining is always that's always a classic, man. I watch that
Yeah.
probably once a year. You
Yeah. No, I
just
saw
watch.
it. It is scary. I don't think I had nightmares, but I definitely had daymares of it.
I actually that was my Halloween costume. Uh, 2022. I did
Oh
the.
no,
I
wait.
went full Jack Torrance.
Okay, I was about to say which character because I think I saw you as a twin.
I did that. Oh yeah, you're right. I did that with my ex-girlfriend. That was like 2019 or 2018. That actually went over really well because obviously it was like a grown man. I had a beard at the time too, which
Yes.
you know we had the wigs and the matching outfits. But we go to a big event here in Detroit called Theater Bazaar, which is a fun time around Halloween time, and we went there in that outfit that year. There were like four or five other like girls, couples that were doing the same thing, but they always try to do it like scantily, you know what I mean? Like dressed
Oh
not
yeah,
too
not yeah.
hot with it. But we showed up, we put on fake prosthetics. I had a big like axe wound down my face. We had the dresses were like covered in blood. And like everyone immediately like beelined it to us, like this is great. We had a lot of photos taken for that one. Plus, again, I had a full beard and this dress
Yeah.
on. It just looked creepy all in its own, but iconic scenes for sure.
Man, okay, so kind of bringing it back because it's funny is like I feel like I could talk movies like all day. Like
I know.
as
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sure people are watching this and they're like, okay, guys, isn't this a Heat Press podcast? Yes, yes, it is. Yeah, I'm catching up on movies with my buddy. All right, guys, to me.
I only get once every 2 years to talk to Jared.
So okay, so to bring it back a little bit though, I do want to ask, were you able to bring or do you bring any experience from your time doing like YouTube? Does any of that come with you outside of the industry? Or does all that kind of experience and info and whatever you want to call it, does that kind of just stay there when you leave?
Are you talking about like for the material, like the usage of the materials, or are you saying?
I guess kind of more so like, okay, so your experience, because you made hundreds of videos probably.
Yeah.
Like, does any of that like translate outside of this industry? Like, or your creativity as a graphic designer or making t-shirts, do you get to apply that anywhere else now that you've kind of exited a little bit?
Um, I guess the quick answer is no, unfortunately. I mean, I do my own stuff in my basement. It's just kind of it's been knowledge I've already known, but in regards of I've always labeled myself. I had a bunch of different titles at Caesar, but I always just called myself an educator. And that was always my most important role. And I think the closest thing, I guess, to this day, which has been about a year journey so far, is I've well, for me it's been a little bit longer than a year, but I've gone onto a fitness journey path, right? And I feel like getting older, I'm trying to keep taking care of myself and stay on a better path than going the opposite. And so I've been just trying to be a little bit more vocal about that in helping guys that I know that have kind of chosen the wrong paths into the benefits of working on yourself in so many ways. I'm not like saying I'm a self-help and all the other things that everyone gets spammed with, but what I've been recently doing at my gym is kind of unofficially become a trainer for like seven people, strangers, people that I've
Wow.
never met, but they started seeing my routine and my consistency with it. That I was, I'd get approached and asked recommendations on like, I'm trying to do this. What do you recommend? And then before I knew it, I was showing people and explaining and teaching people the benefits of X, Y, and Z of what I was doing. And so, in that sense, going back to like working one on one with people and having a personality, it's helped in that way. I know that's not really in the industry, but I've been out of it for like a year and a half. Um, but that would be probably the extent of it. I mean, it doesn't cross too much over with the acting thing. I do all that pretty independently, and it's all just kind of recording and memorization and stuff like that. Um, I did go down on the behalf of Caesar last summer, a year ago, I was out of the company at the time, but I was asked to come back to help with their HSN because they were on the Home
Oh yeah,
Shopping
yeah.
Network. Yeah,
That's
and
huge, dude. That's so cool.
yeah, it was cool. I got to go down. I went down with Pat, and we had to take a course to get certified. And that was actually fun. You know, we went to their headquarters down in Tampa area, and we were with a group of other people that were representing a company. And yeah, we got to go on like a real set. They took us through like working with a host, one of their people, and then having like an earpiece and listening to their producers and gauging the three different camera angles, and then also pitching whatever we were talking about. And then so that was different, and it was fun, and it was an experience for sure. And then Pat ended up going back down there when they did their actual video, which was fair because the objective was to really push the Leonardo software, which, like I said earlier, he was a big part of creating. So it only made sense for him to also educate people about it. But I actually am technically certified with them, like HSN. So if I were to ever move down to Tampa, I could be on there to represent other companies. Or if I actually was proactive enough to reach out to see if they have anything for me, I could do that. But
That's pretty cool. TV star.
can't get away from the crafts, but it's always going to be a part of me.
I would love it so much if you booked a role as you owned a craft shop.
Oh my goodness,
And
I
like,
would. That would be just perfect. That'd
you know,
be
it's funny.
perfect.
So I have this weird lunchtime fantasy because I'm a huge fan of John Favreau and Chef Roy Choi. They did the movie Chef. They have
Mhm.
this TV show called The Chef Show, and so I was like, dude, how could I get them to know who I am? And then I've narrowed it down. If either them or one of their spouses likes to make crafts, or one of their kids likes to make crafts, there's a 1% chance maybe they saw my video,
That
right?
is
Like,
true.
so
That is.
I cling on to that.
I wouldn't weigh it out, man. Like, and again, you guys are good about making sure you diversify where the platforms are. So, again, I know the kids today use TikTok, and I think, and it's not just the kids. I think everyone's using
Oh,
TikTok,
geez, yeah,
and so
yeah,
it's like if you make content on there that somehow catches on and it spreads like wildfire, you don't know who's going to be seeing that. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not going to go down the road, but you know the recent viral young lady that became
Mm.
super famous for two words that are not even words, they're sounds. Like and now she's got a full production company behind. She's got a management team behind her like because
yeah,
that's it.
yep. You're
Like
you're so right. Anything can.
anything can happen. That's why nothing is shocking anymore, dude. Like
Yeah,
anything can happen. I tell everybody, reach for the stars. Just at the
yeah.
end of the day, be a decent person. Just be a good person to people around you. You know, listen, be attentive, be friendly, and but follow what you're passionate about, and that may lead you into John Favreau's kitchen. Who knows? Like
One can only hope and pray. There we
that's
go,
it, man.
man. So I got to ask now for the viewers, for the people. I know for a fact if most people who are watching this are like, "Oh, Joe, yes, I missed him," right? You've definitely had a huge influence on a lot of people in our industry, myself included, probably more so than most others. So I'll take that position as leader of the Joe Piazza fan club. Uh, but I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I know for a fact that there's a lot of people who tune into channels like ours, because they're kind of at a crossroads. It's like, hey, I want to either, get into this. I want to make this big move, like, and you've made that big move. Like,
Mhm.
what kind of advice would you give somebody to either go for it or stay behind? Like I don't know. Like what words can you impart to the people who might be at a crossroads right now?
I mean, right now, I guess it all varies on your age, where you're at in your life. If you have a family, whatever your end goal is really important. I don't advise doing what I did with stability and the longevity that I had for a solid job. Take the leap if you are providing for other people. I'm a solo single dude, no kids. I had a checklist. So I'm going full financial Joe here. But my checklist was I own my house. I wanted to make sure I had that fully paid off before I took the leap. I was out of any looming debt. I had all my finances, and then I had an estimated amount saved that could make me live solo for a year. Obviously moderately. I wasn't planning for big extravagant trips, Disneyland, like nothing. You know what I mean? It was all just here's my allotment for each month, and that's for food and bills, all the other bills, like regular monthly things. But that was it. So if you can get that all squared away, that's more of a conservative recommendation to leap for something that you're passionate for. I think a good amount of people wake up every day and kind of say that to themselves before they walk out the door to their job that they're not necessarily happy with. Is there and I'm not making it sound I love Caesar. Like, and let me be completely clear with that. Like, I love the company. I love everybody that's involved in it. So it wasn't that I dreaded the company and the environment. I think it was more of just like my mental sabbatical that I needed of like being trapped, quote unquote, in like the work environment of just being in an office when you're creative. And
Yep.
if you don't have the same minds that you can be creative with to bounce off every day, then you're not utilized correctly. And you need to, but that's if that's the route you're going. If you're like,
Yeah.
if you're just, I don't know what people want to do anymore. You know what I mean? Like, what are the big goals anymore? Like, if it is just to follow the cookie cutter way, that's 100%. It's great. We need people like that. But like, if your mind is, I want to do stuff, we are also living in a wonderful time where you can do things so independently now, and you can make money off of it. And if that's your part of the goal, we need money. Unfortunately, it's part of what we, it's a necessary evil. But if you have a talent, if you have a skill set that you can harness and turn it into a lucrative business, then I say do it in your free time while you still have a job and get your feet wet and see if it's something that can potentially grow, compound over some time. And then if you have lightning in a bottle, then take the leap. Just go for it. 100% of your attention, but it's work. And you have to be able to have the I guess the backbone in a way, because believe me, it hasn't been a great or an easy ride. It's been wonderful, like this year and a half, but there's a lot of ebbs and flows. There's a lot of like, okay, what are we doing to get to this next month? You know what I mean? Like, it's the reality of it. But I kind of love that feeling. I like just going, well, whatever happens, the only one I'm failing is me. You know what I mean? I'm not accountable for a team. I'm not accountable for a company. Like, it's just I have to own up, and it makes you stronger, and it makes your mind work a lot harder than going in and going, well, I'm just gonna sit at my desk today. You know what I mean? And it's like I can't do that anymore. I only have so many years left. You know what I mean? Like, you got to take advantage of it all the way through.
I love it. So well said, dude. Joe, I like 1,000,000% appreciate you for coming on, for sharing your heart, and for being super real. I think that's one of the things that like really, I'm going to be honest, kind of shocked me when I first met you is how real you were. Because again, I had only seen you on movies and stuff, and so when we first met in person, I want to say it was at one of the All Things Silhouette conferences. I was like, this is a real dude. This is like a real. Like he's cool, man.
Yeah.
And so, dude,
Which is
always
a
a pleasure.
funny word to say, and I appreciate you, and I don't mean to cut you off, but in the world of AI, how many more times can you say
Dude,
real anymore? Because
dude, seriously.
who knows? Someone might be taking all of this right now and using it somewhere else in this world. Cool. I don't care. Do it. But, you know, like in the same token, but I appreciate you, Jared. And in the same sense, like that's why the Heat Press Nation family, when you guys, the OG crew, but everyone's wonderful there. I still have some other people I got to meet, but the guys I met, what, 8 years ago?
Probably, yeah.
8, 9 years ago. I mean, you were all so welcoming, you know what I mean? And I still felt new, and I was just kind of figuring out who's who at our different distributors, and I was like, I don't want to be that guy that's like unapproachable because he's the guy in the videos, or I came off like I don't know how people perceive me, because this is who I am.
Yeah.
I should be an approachable guy. I'll talk to you. I'll say hi to you. Shake your hand. I'll give you a hug if you're comfortable with it. And you guys were instantly like all you guys were coming in for the big hug, and I'm like, well, immediately brothers. Like
Yeah.
immediately.
Yep.
I was like, I already feel comfortable. Just barely remember their names, but I'm comfortable with them.
Yeah. Heck yeah. I love it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys have been able to appreciate this even half as much as me. I absolutely love hanging out, catching up with Joe. Joe, thank you again. Before I let you go, I don't know if there's anything you want to plug, anything you want to shout out, anything like that. Go for it.
I appreciate you, Jared, the Heat Press Nation crew. I miss everybody that's watching that I haven't talked to in a long time. I love you all. Thank you all so much for watching this and listening. Yeah, I'm still doing film stuff. Again, don't be shocked if you may see me in and out of the industry still. It's still going to be a part of what I'm doing the rest of my life, no matter where I'm at. But yeah, working on films. I just shot a film called A Beautiful Rage, and that'll be on Tubi, I believe, at the end of this summer of 2024. The holidays coming around when Thanksgiving comes to the end of the year, that's sort of the evergreen for Hallmark movies. Again, the one that Jared mentions called A Holiday I Do. You can look up, if you go up on IMDb, the website where it catalogs all film and actors and all sorts of stuff. If you just look up Joe Piazza, you can see my whole resume of things I've done on there. If you'd like to watch anything I've done, I'd love to get feedback on that. And that's it. And then on Sunday, this is a weird plug because this will probably already be out, but I'm doing my first powerlifting competition, meet. So
Yeah.
my uncle and I, my 58-year-old uncle and myself are going to be in a powerlifting meet here in Michigan. And we've been working together on this for the last 4 years, and we just figured, like, why not? Just go for it. Just like what I've been saying this whole time. It's out of my comfort zone, something I never thought I'd do in my entire life. But I'm jumping in, and I'm going to go for it. And hopefully I don't come in last place. That's all I'm hoping for. But I'm not a big guy. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's about all I got right now.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, I wish you the absolute best of luck. Thank you again. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Customizing Culture podcast. One more time, my name is Jared Barbosa. I am your host. Today joined Joe Piazza. So many credits to list. We just want to thank you for being an all-around awesome guy. And we'll see you all around.
All right. Thank you.